But because people wanted to brag on social media and websites about, oh yeah, working remotely, we only work a few hours a day, companies are like, yeah, you're not gonna take advantage of us anymore. So recently, I switched jobs, and I noticed the percentage of remote opportunities is a lot less than it was a year ago, 2 years ago, and 3 years ago. So what's going on? I'm not saying there's no opportunities, but in comparison, most companies today want you to be 5 days in the office again, or at least a hybrid role. The percentage of fully complete remote jobs is dwindling lower and lower year by year. In the past 10 years or so, remote work has gone through drastic changes. I remember 6, 7, 8 years ago, working remote was unheard of basically. And then a couple of years ago, we had a global crisis, and then everybody was working remote. And the thing is, many companies saw how efficient people can be working from home. So, what's going on? I think partially our social media era ruined it for a lot of people. But let's break it down and get into it. Multiple remote jobs and surveillance concerns. Coincidentally, with the increase of work from home remote jobs became the increase of people working multiple full-time jobs. Go figure. And because of this, there's been some concerns. For example, if I'm an employer or a company and I'm hiring you to work 8 hours a day for my company, and you're not, you're working 4 or 5 hours and then working another 4 or 5 hours for a different company. If you're only working half the time for my company, they think I should only be paying you half the salary. Because if you can do everything in 4 to 5 hours, you're not working to your full capacity for my company. So you're giving us the short end of the stick. Also, you're juggling two different things. So let's say you're working for this other company first in the morning, and then working for my company after, and just context switching back and forth. You're not giving us your best effort. So that person that we hired in an interview isn't the same person that we're getting in day-to-day work. And you might be saying, well, how do companies know people are working multiple jobs? There are websites like Overemployed. I'll do a whole video about that, but it's a thread about people working 2 and 3 jobs at the same time. The second thing is social media. Too many people were bragging on social media about, yeah, I had this cool job. I work an hour a day. Then I just chill, work for this other company for an hour a day. They were just bragging about having these high-paying jobs and not actually doing any work. And companies caught on to that. They were thinking, hold on, we're paying you to do X, Y, and Z, and you're not even doing it. Meanwhile, if you were working in an office, we can sit over your shoulder and see, okay, what's this person doing? We can track what's happening on their computer. I can walk to Sally's desk and say, hey, what's Sally doing? Is Sally doing actual work? Or is Sally playing Flappy Birds or Call of Duty all day and pretending to work? And here's the thing. I work hybrid right now, where I'm 3 days remote from anywhere that I want and 2 days in an office. And I believe that people can be very productive working remote. But because people wanted to brag on social media and websites about, oh yeah, working remotely, we only work a few hours a day, companies are like, yeah, you're not gonna take advantage of us anymore. And because of those people bragging about it, they messed it up for everybody else. So that's the first reason I believe there's a decline in remote opportunities. Quick break. If you're enjoying this video so far, please like and subscribe. If you need help on your software testing journey, check out my website, thetestinglead.com. I have courses, books, and other material to help you along your way. Now, back to the video. Communication and collaboration challenges. While remote work provides flexibility to workers, sometimes it creates obstacles for communication. When you're working remote and you have a question, you have to ask the person via a communication channel like Teams or Slack. So let's say I have a question. I want to ask Mr. James St. Patrick how to do X, Y, and Z for my code. I messaged him on Teams or Slack, and he'll answer in 10 minutes or an hour or in a couple of days, whatever is convenient to him and his schedule. So now there's a gap between communication. But in person, if I have a question, I can walk over to his desk and say, "Hey, do you have a minute? I have this quick question." "Cool. Thank you for answering it." So instead of getting instant feedback, I'm now waiting to when it's convenient for the person I'm asking. So that's two different worlds for communication. Next, the interpersonalness of communication. If I'm just typing to somebody, a lot of things can be misinterpreted through text. We're all human. There's been times when somebody messages you on your phone and you think, what are they saying here? And you may misinterpret what they're trying to say because there's no body language, facial expressions, or anything of that nature. The same thing happens on Teams and in Zoom and other platforms. So things can be misinterpreted. Maybe that email wasn't an angry email, but you misinterpreted it and took it the wrong way. Maybe your boss or coworker was genuinely curious about something, but you thought they was mad or being rude. Virtually, you couldn't tell. But in person, if they were smiling while asking a question, you can say, oh, they were playing around, making a joke, or just being genuine. So communication becomes a big struggle sometimes with remote jobs. Company culture and team building. I'm a big believer that company culture plays a big part in you staying at a job. If you align and you're happy about going to work day to day, then you're likely to stay somewhere longer. If you hate your job, you're probably every day applying to new jobs. So depending on the culture and atmosphere can dictate an employee tenure at a company. If the culture sucks, there's usually a high turnover rate. And you may be thinking, well, how do you build a good culture? By making connections. It's hard to make connections when you don't actually know anybody. You know their avatar on Teams. You don't even know what they look or sound like. So in that position, you think that, hey, I'm just another cog in the wheel. I'm just going to stay here, do my 8 hours, sign off, and do the bare minimum. Because you have no actual connection or ties to your company. But taking a step back, if I'm an actual company, I don't want a high turnover rate. I want employees to be there 5, 10 years. Because that shows to other potential employees that, hey, this is a good place to work. Look at places like Google and Amazon. They don't want you to ever leave their facilities. They give you food, you can bring your pets. They want you to spend every single day, hour at the facility. they make the culture and environment as pleasurable as possible. That's for a reason. Yeah, it's costing them a lot of money, but it's an investment. If the employees are happy about working, they'll do better work. Simple logic. And that's why every new startup kind of copied Fang, the Googles, the Amazons, and their cultures, where they want you to be there all day. Startups that I've worked for that were smaller still gave us these free lunches. They have company activities, company outings. Those all go into the company culture. So when you're in an environment where you feel good, you feel like a family, yeah, I'm gonna work harder compared to a place where I hate it, I'm staring at my watch half the time. No, I'm gonna do the bare minimum not to get fired. So stressing company culture is big. And last but not least, security concerns. It's important if your company deals with sensitive information that people accessing it are doing so securely, which sounds good. But if you're in a random place using a public Wi-Fi to do your work, that's not that secure. Anybody can read the traffic being sent over the Wi-Fi and say, wait, hold on. This person's dealing with credit card information for accounts. Let me just siphon the information through the Wi-Fi while they're sending it. And you, as the worker, will have no idea what's going on because my information is being sent to the destination. I'm getting a response. I think everything's okay. But then a hacker is just, okay, let me just view what's going on and kind of copy everything being sent. And then a month from now, you start getting random phishing emails in your email address. You're like, hold on, how did they get my email address? Then 2 months from now, your company has a cyber attack. And they're like, wait, how did this happen? We're a secure company. A year from now, your company's getting blackmailed to pay a crazy ransom because they've collected all this information about the customers without you realizing it. That's all happening because of security, which is why companies stress security so much. And cybersecurity is its own field that's up and booming for obvious reasons. So because of that, companies are like, hey, work in our offices, on our Wi-Fis, protected networks, everything will be okay. Expenses. You may be thinking, hey, I'm working from home, that's more affordable for me. I'm not paying for gas or tolls or bus fares. So we're saving money. And companies, they're not paying for any new office space. So they're saving money. Yeah, that sounds good, but a lot of companies have these long leases. Some companies have 10-year and 15-year leases in these buildings. So they paid up front for the next 8-10 years for this office space. So they're gonna make sure, hey, if we're paying for this, we're getting use out of it. They also can write off these expenses in their final profits. They can say, yeah, we made $2 million in profits, but we spent $500,000 on office stuff, so we get taxed less. Corporate taxes and business taxes, a whole other section, but these things go into companies at the end of the day keeping money or using money to benefit them in different ways. And because they paid for these long contracts, they're gonna say, no, come into the office. And if you don't want to, there's thousands of people out there who will love your job, who are willing to commute into the office. So take it or leave it. I even saw recently that I believe Zoom made all of their workers come back into the office in full force. Ironically, Zoom, which blew up during the remote era of working, forces their own workers to come in person. So that should be a telling sign about what the future holds. So in short, because of changing times in today's era, most companies want you to be fully in person or hybrid. There still exist opportunities for remote jobs, but the percentage is definitely getting smaller and smaller. If you have any ideas about other possible reasons that this is happening, leave it below. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, also leave it below. And most importantly, don't forget this, learn something new today.